Some people avoid ghosts at all costs, and some people flock to them. One person in particular also collects haunted objects, investigates haunted abandoned hospitals on her own, and does it all while living in a portable home so she can spend more time at these haunted locations. Lady Teal is an artist, podcaster, writer, collector, and haunted travel agent, and she has some very interesting stories to tell today on Homespun Haints. Hello, Hainted Loves. Welcome to Homespun Haints. I am Becky.
And I am Diana.
And today on the show, we have one of our dear friends and collaborators, somebody we have talked to in depth over the past few years as spooky podcasters. It is Lady Teal of Lady Teal's Curios, otherwise known as Katie Brittle, artist and spooky woman extraordinaire. She has so many things that she's up to, and she's got some stories. But before we bring on Lady Teal, I understand, Diana, you have a story for us today.
Goodness gracious. I got a scare last night.
Uh-oh. All right. Tell me what happened. You got a scare. Oh my gosh, you got a scare in your haunted house. I wonder what could have possibly happened.
Well, I've been worried about this moment since I met Amber. And it finally happened. We were standing by the sink in the bathroom, brushing our teeth, getting ready for bed. And we were just kind of standing there, kind of staring off into space. We're tired, moving a little slow, not really talking or anything because, we got toothbrushes in our mouth. When Amber kind of says around a mouthful of toothbrush, she gestures towards our garage in the back of the house. And for authenticity, I think I should say this with a toothbrush in my mouth. Hang on.
Oh, okay.
So this is what I'm hearing. Amber says, I don't expect you to do anything about it, but I just want to warn you that there's a dead baby bird in our backyard. But she didn't get the word bird out before I said, what?
We should not be laughing about dead babies.
No, probably not.
Oh,
no. I had to respond with, when the day comes that the word bird doesn't end that sentence, I've still got your back, baby. I'm ride or die here, but I've been worried about this day since I met you 20 years ago.
Oh, no.
So apparently she was letting the dog out to go potty, and the dog went and sniffed at something on the ground, but then left it alone completely. And Amber thought, oh, she found a little frog, because it had been raining a lot. And she thought a little frog had come out in the rain. She didn't have her glasses on, so she goes and approaches this cute frog, like excited to see a cute little frog hopping along the back porch. And she bends way down and comes into focus in the darkness. A dead baby bird covered in ants.
Oh, no.
So she was pausing because she was trying to decide how graphic to get in her description to me. She was trying to save me the distress of a graphic decision, but the timing and the order of words it backfired, man. Totally backfired. So I was a little cross with her, and I was like, in the future, when I'm this tired, please start with the least offensive clause first and then work your way up in offensiveness. And she paused and she goes, so there's a bird in the backyard that's dead, and it's a baby. There you go. Next time, Amber. So we'll see if that sticks. She's probably going to do it to me again.
She's laughing maniacally.
You bet she was. As soon as she realized why I was exclaiming, what? Yeah, she totally cracked up at me.
Wow. Well, it's a good thing she didn't pick up the dead baby bird, because what's on the other side of it? Maggots.
Ooh.
I've done this before.
Ants on the top, maggots on the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Mom always said, don't touch the dead baby birds. And I did anyway, and I learned why I wasn't supposed to touch them.
But did she pause after dead baby like a psychopath? That's what I need to know, because that's the experience that I had.
No, but it is sad. Sometimes they'll fall out of the nest and they'll break their little necks. And...
yeah, that's what this was. So just be careful about delivering news about dead babies while you're brushing your teeth. This is the motto of this story.
All right, well, you heard it here first. You've been warned. Next time you're brushing your teeth in the same sink as Diana. When you started this, I thought you were going to say that you both spat at the same time and crossed the streams. I was like, that's going to be what it is. Because your bathroom's already a portal, and Lord knows what that would have cost.
The other bathroom is a portal.
Other bathroom. Well, Diana, that was disturbing. You know what else is disturbing is having to listen to commercials on this podcast. But you don't have to do that if you join our Patreon, patreon.com/homespunhaints, where all of our episodes are ad-free. And if you're not a member of our Patreon,
enjoy this commercial.
Today on the show, we are really thrilled to bring on a longtime friend and collaborator and all-around spooky woman herself, Katie Brittle of Lady Teal's Curios. You have heard her on the show as a guest ghost host last year when Diana was suffering from an attack by a throat demon. Katie graciously came in and filled in for her. Not only is she a podcast host of Lady Teal's Curios, she also collects oddities. She goes on investigations. She does these really cool, spooky travel holiday packages. She's also a writer, a photographer, an artist. She just does a ton. Thank you so much for being on the show. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here today.
Tell us everything you're up to.
As far as what I've been up to recently, I actually had my own throat demons for the past couple months. So the podcast was on hold for a little bit. I have been working hard to bring the podcast back for the summertime. We've got some stuff ready to go, and we're excited about it.
Wonderful.
What's it like to have an intern? That sounds great. All our interns are dead.
Oh, gosh.
We have ghost interns.
I was going to say, is that because you murdered them, or?
You just work them to death.
Katie, we're on the air.
I'm so glad to hear that having an intern has worked out well for you.
Yeah, Maggie is awesome. She helps a lot with the Wednesday Wacky and Weird episodes, researching different weird news items and things like that. And she actually has had her own spooky experiences, and the episode should be available next week.
Be sure to tune into Lady Teal's Curios, wherever you get your podcasts next week, so you can hear her intern Maggie's stories. And I'm really excited to hear this too. Maggie's mother and I used to be colleagues.
How interesting.
It all comes full circle. So not only are you involved with the podcast, but you do a lot of investigations of haunted objects and of locations. In fact, I just confided to my husband I think it was about 2 years ago, Katie sends me a text saying, "Hey, I want to buy a haunted baby carriage. Can I have it shipped to your house? Do you mind keeping it for about 6 months?" And I was like, "Sure." And then I was like, oh my God, how am I going to hide that one from my husband? Middle of the night, we hear this phantom baby crying. It's coming from the storage room.
Don't know what that could be. So did you need a haunted carriage for all the haunted dolls you got from Becky? Is that what's going on?
So one of my guests, actually, I interviewed him on the show, and he had a few haunted objects, and I acquired one of the smaller objects from him, but he also had a carriage that he was looking to get rid of, and it was a really cute Victorian carriage. I think I posted some photos of it on Instagram too, but I ended up deciding not to get it just because he said the attachments to it were bothering his children. And then
I'm glad too.
After I found that out, I was like, I live in a camper. There's no room. If I sent it over to Becky, who knows what would happen? So I have one of the smaller sculptures that he had, and haven't really experienced too much with that. One thing that happens, and I don't know, maybe you guys can help me figure this out, is I'll talk to people and they say that they have a haunted object, and I'm like, cool, let me investigate it. And they send it to me, and then there's no activity at all.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the object that's haunted. Maybe it's the person.
Right? They just put it in a haunted room and thought it was the object.
Yeah. But it has led to having a unique collection of antiques and oddities.
I definitely am impressed that you collect haunted objects from around the country. When you live in a camper full time, when I lived in a van full time, I was like, should I keep the handle to my toothbrush or can I deal with just the head? So it's amazing to me that you collect items. Tell me about how that works.
I have a storage bin, and anything I bring in, I have to get rid of one thing.
That sounds
So,
right.
like, usually I get rid of a sweatshirt or a piece of clothing that I'm not wearing anymore.
And eventually you'll be naked and haunted as your ultimate goal. I like that. A limited storage for haunted objects.
Wow.
That's nice.
And then on top of that, you're a travel agent. You do all sorts of really cool things with haunted packages. You've got something going on this October that Diana and I are actually going to attend. Tell us a little bit about all of those things that you're up to.
So I love traveling, and since we were traveling in a camper and seeing a lot of the states, kind of just made sense to do some of the travel advising. But one of the things that I really enjoy about traveling is finding the off the beaten path locations and then places with history, legends, and lore that people have started to forget about and bringing those back to life. A lot of the episodes on Lady Teal's Curios, specifically the Wanderings episodes, those explore the different locations that I've been to. But I always thought it would be super fun to bring people who are very into the spooky sphere together and have a spooky retreat. So that's what's going on this October. My husband and I went to Lambertville and fell in love with the town because they celebrate Halloween out the wazoo. So I thought Halloween, a historic town that is actually two historic towns. You have Lambertville and New Hope right next to each other. There's a really cool oddity shop up there. They have a rare bookstore, antiques. There's a wet plate photographer in town. So lots of really fun, unique things that we can do while we're exploring the history, the legends, and the paranormal side of town.
I cannot wait. And I've been to New Hope, and it is just adorable. So I'm very excited to go back.
Yeah, this is totally our dream too, is a group of spooky people on a spooky retreat. Oh, thank you.
So people can find out about this by following you on Instagram, correct?
Yep, you can follow on Instagram where I post most of the updates at Lady Teal's Curios. TikTok is the other place I'm active. I kind of go in phases, like sometimes I'll spend more time on Instagram and sometimes more on TikTok.
Same. Well, let's talk about some of the spooky things that have happened to you on all of your travels and collecting things. It's interesting that you said that an object becomes unhaunted once you acquire it, because in spite of all of that, you still have so many experiences. Let's start with the beginning, because I think you said something happened when you were a child that was really intense.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so the first weird supernatural paranormal experience that I can remember is I must have been like 7 or 8 years old. I was at my grandparents' house and one of my friends was with us and we were sleeping right next to each other. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning and we both shot up the same time, like the exact same time. We were asleep. We both like sat up instantly, looked at each other, and I was like, I just had the craziest dream. And she finished my sentence. Like, I didn't even tell her what I was dreaming about. She told me, she was like, it was about this, this, and this. And I honestly don't remember what the dream was about. What stuck with me the most was that she finished the sentence of what I was dreaming, and then I finished her sentence, and we told each other what we were dreaming about, and we had the exact same dream. I wish I could remember what the dream was about, because I know that would make the story way better. But that experience has stuck with me. I never had any other weird experiences at my grandparents' house. I never had any other weird experiences with that friend, but that one thing still boggles my mind to this day.
Do you feel like there was a specific incident that happened that day that would cause you both to connect that way? Or was this a very special friendship that was just really close to you and you were on the same wavelength?
So she was my best friend growing up, and then we drifted apart as we got older. But in this particular year, we were hanging out constantly all the time. So I think maybe because I hear stories about younger people being more connected to different realms and things like that. So I don't know if it was like the age. We were primed at that age. Plus, we were hanging out all the time. Plus, we were sleeping right next to each other. And where my grandparents live, it's in Americus, Georgia, which is a super southern town in Georgia. And they live on a little lake. There's nothing around them at all. So maybe it was like the right place at the right time.
So not too many people influencing the energy there, and you two were close physically and close emotionally that year. See, I strongly believe that something happens in the semi-field that surrounds your brain, your cerebral EMF field. We did a whole episode about this and we kind of pseudoscienced our way through it, but I strongly believe that something happens when you enter somebody else's physical semi-field, and you do have some kind of a connection. I don't know if it's just the release of oxytocin or if it's something psychic. I really don't know, but I definitely can feel it when I enter other people's electromagnetic space, basically. It's like an aura.
That's part of why people couldn't really connect over Zoom during the pandemic like they could when they were physically in each other's spaces.
Maybe.
Or why introverts just need to be alone sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, Katie, I love that. I know you've got so many more stories.
Ooh.
So let's fast forward.
Yes. I grew up in a very conservative religious household and was taught not to believe in ghosts. So I didn't really have any other experiences until I left that religion and I started exploring tarot. I went to this little witchy shop in Atlanta that had tarot decks, and I was actually researching it for the podcast. I wanted to get a couple of decks and research more about it because it was becoming more popular. I could see it becoming more popular, and I wanted to make sure I knew what I was talking about on the show. So I went into the shop, and the lady was like, just pick a deck that resonates with you, that really connects with you. I asked her, why do people have so many tarot decks? Don't you need just one? At the time, it didn't make sense why people had so many tarot decks. But now I am one of those people that have like 10 tarot decks. And I remember her telling me like people collect them for the art. Tarot decks have different personalities, that kind of thing. And that stuck with me. But when I got my tarot deck, she told me to sleep with it under the bed or under the pillow, which I slept with it under the bed because it was like in a big box. So I wasn't going to sleep with that under my pillow.
Yeah.
But she said that sleeping with it under the bed would connect you with it more. It would kind of feel your presence. And my husband happened to be out of town while I was doing this. I had the dogs in the house and it was nighttime. The tarot deck was under the bed. I fell asleep. Suddenly, I felt something rubbing my arms and massaging my shoulders. And I was kind of in that weird phase of sleep where like I thought Chris had come home and he was waking me up to let me know that he had made it home. But then when I woke up, I was like, no, he just left yesterday. He shouldn't even be home yet. And so I woke up, I like look around, there's nobody there. I start going back to sleep again and I feel it again, like this massaging my shoulders, and just it was nice feeling, but it was also weird because the dogs would start barking every time it would happen. And so I would get up from bed, I would go look to see what the dogs were barking at. I wasn't connecting the two yet, like they were two separate events happening simultaneously, but now I think that they were connected. So I would go look at what the dogs were barking at, couldn't find anything, come back to bed, try to go to sleep again, feel the massaging. It happened so much that night that it got to a point where I was just like, I literally just want to go to sleep now. So I was like, whatever you are, whoever is doing this, just leave me alone and let me go to sleep. And then it stopped and I went back to sleep.
Whoa. Well, at least it listened to you. And props to him for being the kind of guy who would wake up his sweetie by rubbing your shoulders. That's really sweet that you thought that was him. That's a high estimation, I think.
Yeah, that sounds nice. What tarot deck was it?
It was the Wild Unknown tarot deck. It's a really good starter deck. It has like a nice little book that comes with it and has collage artwork. It's very colorful and vibrant. I don't use it as much anymore. I don't feel as connected with it as I do some of my other decks, but I go back to it kind of like as an old friend from time to time.
Well, it was trying to connect with you and you told it to leave you alone.
I know.
Of course you don't connect with it now. It's like, well,
He's like,
if you're going to
shunned.
cold shoulder me.
I asked several people about this, and I had a few different opinions. Like, one person said that it was the deck trying to bond with me. Another person said that usually when you feel rubbing, massaging type feelings in your sleep, it's not a good thing. I can't remember the name of it, but it's like a certain type of entity or spirit.
Not an incubus?
Maybe that was it. But so like I had conflicting views being told to me as far as what it was, and I don't know if that kind of made me disconnect with the deck a little bit, but it was an interesting experience regardless. I don't know. I am very skeptical too. Because of how I grew up, I feel tricked in a lot of ways. And so a lot of times I approach everything that I'm investigating and researching with a skeptical but open mindset. So like I am open to it being the deck connecting, but I am also open to the fact that it was 3 a.m. and maybe my imagination was running a little bit. So I don't know.
The dogs were upset about something.
Yes. And that is probably the thing that skews me slightly over to it wasn't something that I was imagining.
So any other experiences with new tarot decks, or is this the one and only?
So no experiences with tarot decks anymore. I have a system. When I get a new tarot deck, I introduce myself to it. I tell it that I want to use it for this and that. And then I ask it to give me a reading to tell me about itself because I want to know its personality. And it's usually pretty accurate.
What would you like to tell us next?
Some of my favorite experiences have been while paranormal investigating. And the first solo one that I did was out in Ajo, Arizona, at a hospital that was actually used as a paranormal research facility, which has since been closed down as far as I'm aware. I paid, I think, like $25, and they gave me some history packets about the hospital, but I went in not knowing anything about the hospital. I purposely wanted to investigate it without any knowledge at all. That was the first time in my life that I got EVPs, and I actually did not have any experiences in the hospital, but it was still really cool. It was after the fact when I was going through the audio recordings and I heard whispers. I asked if anybody was there. I had several hellos and highs, and that was just, I don't know. I played those for people. And every time I play them for people, they're like, what is that? So that was a first experience where I was like, this is so cool. Like, not only did I learn about the history of the hospital, but I also had this, like, what I thought was nothing happened at all. And then later, come to find out, there was something talking.
EVPs are creepy like that. They're having a conversation with you and you're like, oh, there's nothing here. And then you leave and you're like, oh, shoot, there was something. I like EVPs. They're one of my favorite little bits of evidence because they kind of turn up the creepy factor that you didn't know was happening at the time.
Yeah.
You find out later.
Yes.
Can you share some of those with us so we can play them on this episode?
Definitely.
If anyone's in here, can you say hello? If anyone's in here, can you say hello?
The level up from that was when Becky and I went to the historic Scott County Jail. That was like a huge level up because I actually heard footsteps with my own ears. I heard whispering. We got the same whispering on EVPs. It was the first time I was able to try the Estes method with somebody else. Like previously, I had been doing versions of the Estes method on my own, like with people watching on lives and things like that.
That sounds creepy. You don't know what's going on. You can't hear anything except, oh, man. And then they're like, it's right behind you, Katie. Oh, ooh, brave.
Yeah. So that particular experience, we heard a lot. There was a lot of activity. But there was one particular moment. We were in the cell across from the newspapers. Becky was asking some questions, and I was repeating what the spirit box was saying. And all of a sudden, there was like this loud noise, and it felt like something got pushed through me. I was sitting on the bench and the jail cell rails were behind me, and like it felt like the rails rattled. I could hear the metal. It literally felt like something was pushed through me. It was this really loud sound on the headphones, and it was so loud that I honestly couldn't tell if it was the headphones or something happened outside of the headphones that caused all this vibrations and all this noise to happen. So I took the headphones off and I asked Becky, like, what is this? What happened? Did you hear that? And she didn't hear anything.
I know. But it was on the tape. You got it. You recorded it.
Did you look over there? Did you look over there?
It was not only on the tape, but so like my headphones were hooked up to the spirit box. We had a separate recording device. The separate recording device got it. And then 2 seconds later, the other people we were with came running up the stairs and they were like, what was that? Mm-hmm. They heard it. They were several floors below us and they heard a noise too.
Oh, I didn't. Like, what the hell? I think it's that attachment I had. Because, Katie, you were like, I think that attachment that you have is keeping you in a bubble. And then also, do you remember right after that, the whole place just filled with the smell of sulfur? And,
oh, God.
And you're like, Becky, did you fart? And I was
no,
like,
okay. Yeah, that happened twice, Diana. And the first time it was so strong that I was looking at Becky and I was like, did you fart? Like, did you just like let one out and not tell me?
No, I swear. I would have owned it.
And so I asked her about it. And then it happened again in a separate room and it was so strong. Like I had never smelled anything that strong before.
I wasn't even in the room the second time it happened, right?
Yeah, I don't think you were.
Yeah, so see, wasn't me.
It was a gassy ghost following Katie around. Oh my gosh, that's great. What do you associate the smell with, if anything, aside from farts?
So a lot of people have said that when you smell rotten eggs or sulfur, that it's negative energy. I don't necessarily believe that. I think sometimes, let's say that it's ghosts, I think they can only access certain energies or certain tools, and they're just using whatever they have to get your attention. So just because somebody smells bad doesn't mean they're a bad person.
Bad smells, good energy. I like that.
I ended up writing a little story based on the entire experience of going to that jail, and it's being published in the Feminine Macabre. So that should be out, I think, sometime this summer.
Nice.
That's excellent. That was really, really cool. I'm so glad I had the opportunity to do that with you. I wish I hadn't had whatever little productive bubble around me. I mean, I don't mind not smelling the ghost farts, but I wish I'd been able to experience some of the other things. But I remember when you were in Arizona and you collected some of those EVPs and you sent one or two to me because you were so excited. It was like, it was right out of a horror movie. It was so terrifying.
What's strange, or I don't know, maybe it's good, but that stuff doesn't scare me. A lot of people, when I told them, oh, I did a solo investigation in the hospital, they were like, what? Even when I got to the hospital, the people who let me in, they were like, you're here by yourself? What? But it's more like curiosity driving everything. And when I hear that kind of stuff, it gets me excited because it's like there is something there. We don't necessarily have a full understanding of what it is. Maybe we don't have like all the technology to figure out what it is, but there's something. There's definitely something there. And that just is very intriguing and very motivational.
I just think that statement describes your personality so much. You are so curious about all of the things that are unknown. You don't just explore the paranormal. You're always looking at odd history. You're always seeking to learn more about the things that we just don't know much about. And like you said, also preserve history that otherwise might be getting lost.
There's this other area in Arizona, the Bradshaw Ranch. I would definitely listen to that episode because there was a lot of history that I learned about the area and a lot of serendipitous events. Nothing really happened there to me. There was just a lot of serendipity, and it was the first time too that I had a small experience with a vortex in Sedona. Everybody would always tell me they had experiences in Sedona at the vortexes, and I never did. And I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. Everybody feels something, whether it's nausea or they feel like a buzzing thing going through their body. And I was like, I'm not feeling anything. Like, this is not fair.
Just like Becky, it's not fair. I didn't get the haunting.
So the campsite that we were at was actually on a hidden vortex, and we would get the tour buses coming through, and they would stop right in front of our campsite, and they would be like, stand in this area or this area. And I would listen to the tour buses. I would learn about the history because we were there for like months. So like I learned all about the history in the area. And so finally I have like a quartz and a citrine necklace that can be used as a pendulum. And so like I went to the area and I was like, okay, I'm not feeling anything myself, but maybe like I can use something to see if there's anything there. And that necklace, I have a video on TikTok where that necklace is just like spinning around in a circle, and it was spinning fast, and I could feel it being tugged towards the earth. So that was pretty cool.
We'll make sure we link to that TikTok video in our show notes. What other experiences would you like to talk about?
So Becky gave me some haunted dolls.
You're welcome.
And apparently she did not know them.
I wasn't even sure they were haunted. I just was like, hey, I've got something for you. And I brought up this box with these 2 dolls in it. Because for years, my husband's like, when are you going to get rid of those damn dolls? They freak me out. So I was thrilled to get rid of them. And Katie was thrilled to have them.
Is this one of the dolls that I saw run across your basement?
Maybe.
What? You didn't tell me that.
I don't know. Anyway, continue. So apparently they are haunted, huh?
At least one.
So we were driving up here, and I had put the dolls in a shopping bag with like some other item because like I was trying to keep them protected. They have cute little dresses on. One of them is the Gone with the Wind Scarlet dress, and it's just really cute. So I wanted to keep them safe. They were sitting in the passenger seat on the floor. There's like a rubber mat on the floor in the car, and I stopped to move some stuff, and I lifted the bag up, and there was like this tiny little puddle under the bag, and had like seeped through the bag from where the dolls were sitting. And the first thing that I thought of was like, did these dolls just like pee in my car?
Now, note to listeners, these are not baby wets herself dolls or anything like that. These are porcelain antique dolls that should not pee under normal circumstances.
And it wasn't even like a ton of liquid. I didn't smell it, but
did you taste it?
No, I did not taste it.
Salty.
I should have taken a photo of it. It's a newish car to me, so the first thing that I was doing was cleaning up the little bit of water, but it was the exact amount that if a doll were to pee, that's what it would look like.
How do you know that? It's the exact size of a doll bladder. What?
And there was nothing else that could have caused the water in your car?
There was no liquid in the bag. I checked the other items. I had some Disney plushes in the bag, and no water in those, no condensation. It was a paper bag, so any liquid that was touching it, it was like from where the dolls were sitting. The only other thing I could think of is if the dolls had some liquid in them at some point for some reason, and then it just kind of seeped out.
I've had those dolls for years. No, they're porcelain. They've got cloth bodies, but they've got like the porcelain heads, and there's nothing hollow in them, nothing where water could get up in them. And they have literally been, I've moved them around. Diana saw one running across the basement. Like, if they had liquid on them, I would have noticed.
Yeah, and the amount of humidity they could have absorbed and then expelled if you drove straight from Georgia to Colorado, it wouldn't be a whole doll bladder's worth.
Would not be any, you would not notice it. It would be vapor. So one of those dolls, the Gone with the Wind doll, you know who you are. If you're listening, you know who you are that sent it to me. She tried to send it to me anonymously, one of our listeners, and I figured out who it was. And when the doll arrived, her head was on backwards.
Dude.
And I asked
Oh,
the person who
gosh.
sent it, I said, was her head on backwards when you sent it? And she's like, no. So this doll had done a little exorcist thing with her head while she was in
Oh no, you brought up The Exorcist. Okay, so she's turning her head around by herself all the way backwards, and then she pees as soon as she leaves your house.
Is that the one that you saw running across?
No, the other one is the one Diana saw running.
Oh, okay.
Well, I saw little foot shadows underneath the door, and I thought it was a cat trapped in the room, so I opened the door to let the cat out, and there was no cat in there, just that doll.
So, hey, Katie, you're welcome. I gave you actual objects that are really haunted.
There you go. Just watch out for the pea soup vomits. That's coming next, I think. That's next up in the hierarchy.
Next time, just make sure you potty train them. That would be helpful.
Dude, I have already potty trained 2 kids and 4 cats. I'm done.
Well, since that happened in the middle of our road trip to Vermont, just as a precaution, I was like, don't know where this liquid came from. If it actually came from the dolls, I just told them, like, hey, we're on a road trip. If you could please hold your bladder, that would be great. And I did not see any other liquid after that. So,
Oh, good.
Cool. If you have another problem, I will send you a little doll diaper.
Aw, that would be really incriminating if that got wet.
that would be a good way to test it for sure. With the haunted objects, like I said, most of the time I don't really experience anything with the haunted objects, but I do like study them. Like I have the haunted hair from the 1800s that somebody sent me, and I've done several spirit box sessions with it and haven't gotten anything from it yet. Something that I would like to do is have different people investigate these objects to see if different people get different results from it, because I don't know if when they come into my possession, if I have some sort of dampening field around me.
So haunted hair, like a single hair or a braid of hair?
A girl got her curls cut off, so it's several locks of curls, and they're like big curls.
I touched the hair. It was pretty creepy. I know that you were talking about doing something where you would do like a crowdsourcing history object investigation where you would send objects to other people. Is that something that you're still doing?
I would like to. I haven't really gotten any takers on it yet.
Okay.
And I'm starting to think that's because most people don't want a haunted object in their home.
Gasp.
Why? I don't know.
What's wrong with people?
Well, no, tell us about it. Tell us about it. So this is a program that you're starting.
Yeah, this is something I'm trying to start because, like, as I was saying earlier, I feel like when I acquire an object that is supposedly haunted, there is some sort of dampening field or something around me that does not make it active. Or these items are just not haunted. So I would like other people to test them besides me to see if they actually are getting different results. So that would let me know if there is something going around with me or if it's just the objects.
What if the objects have to be in a stationary building to present their haunting?
That is an idea that I had as well. Because we're constantly moving, they aren't active because they don't feel like they're stationary.
They don't connect with the energy of the place fast enough to create a haunting. I think that might be a thing.
Is this something that you're asking people to pay a fee in order to acquire the object for a certain amount of time?
It would be like a donational fee. So they would donate $25, $30, depending on the size of the object. And then that fee would go towards creating the Haunted Oddities and Curiosities Museum.
Cool. And then you would want the object back after
Yes.
they did their investigation. Okay.
Oh, for the museum.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the important part, right?
Right.
It has to come back so that it can be shared with others.
So if people who are listening, y'all haunted loves who love haunted objects, if you're interested in contributing to this project with Lady Teal, can they email you? Is that the best way to get in touch with you about this?
Certainly. It's ladytealscurios@gmail.com.
That's pretty easy to
Cool.
remember. And Teal is spelled Teal, just like the color. Lady Teal's Curios. And we'll also have that email address on the show notes for this episode. Maybe somebody will reach out.
That would be awesome.
Do it, Haunted Loves.
Yeah.
Have your own experience with a haunted doll peeing in your car.
I'm so excited that the doll peed. It's just validation that my intuition was right about them. Katie, Lady Teal, this has been wonderful to talk to you. You have so many amazing stories. And for anybody who isn't already listening to your podcast, they are definitely going to want to check you out after hearing you talk.
Oh, yeah.
These are such fun stories. And we are so psyched to meet up with you in October. Do you still have any spaces for that retreat?
We do have a couple spaces left, 2 to 3 spaces. So if anybody wants to join us, just hit me up on the email. There is going to be a special dinner where everybody can dress up as their zodiac sign or a representation of their zodiac sign. So there's some fun little things.
Does it have to be your sun sign?
You know, I didn't specify, so it doesn't have to.
She didn't specify. I can use any of my houses. All right, cool. Oh, this is going to be so fun. And I just got to say, Becky acts like she doesn't want haunted dolls and doesn't like that her grandma bought them from thrift stores for her. But last time I took Becky to a Goodwill, she very nearly went home with another freaking haunted doll. Becky, you were carrying it around going, should I get this? So I think maybe deep down you kind of have a little bit
story
of
about
a desire.
that doll. Yeah, that was so weird.
That one?
That particular doll. Yeah, so my daughter finds it. She's like, Mom, it's so pretty. And I was like, it is really pretty. And I'm like, should I get it? It was like weird. We were both just really attracted to this doll. We really wanted this doll. And Diana completely talked us out of it. She's like, are you nuts?
You had just like that morning been like, oh, I can't believe everybody keeps sending me these dolls from these thrift stores. And then later in the day, she's like, should I get this beautiful
She's
doll?
like in a trance.
Yeah, it was.
Yes.
And the minute we got out of the store, my daughter turns to me. She's like, ugh, I don't know why I wanted that doll. It's creeping me out now, just the thought of it. And I was like, same. It was like it had us under its spell. It was really weird. Didn't affect Diana, though.
No, I'm immune to beautiful dolls.
Tell everybody where they can. You've given us your email address, which is ladytealscurios@gmail.com. And your Instagram is ladytealscurios, as is your TikTok.
The TikTok just has underscores between each word. So it's lady_teals_curios on TikTok.
Okay. And Instagram, it's just all one word.
Yes. Everywhere else, it's one word.
And then also people can just go to ladytealscurios.com and find all of these things.
Correct.
Katie, wonderful conversation. This has been so much fun to talk to you. I can't wait till you're back in Atlanta. We always have so much fun when you're around, and we can't wait to see you in October.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Let me know when you're coming to Oklahoma. Yeah. It's haunted here. We just don't talk about it.
Yeah, you'll have to give me the tour and the history and all of that. I just really appreciate you guys having me on, and I've had a lot of fun sharing these stories.
Us too. Haunted Loves, thank you for listening, and let us know what you think. Have you ever had a haunted doll excrete anything, anywhere? Or have you ever camped in front of a portal or a vortex and not felt anything? Tell us what your experiences are. And in the meantime, have a spooky day.
Homespun Haints is hosted by Becky Kielimnik and Diana Doty, and produced by Homespun Haints Media LLC. Editing and music by Becky Kielimnik. Show notes by Diana Doty. If you have a ghost story and you'd like to be considered as a guest for this podcast, please visit our website at homespunhaints.com/submit.